What is up, everybody? My name is Andy Christopher, and welcome to episode number 2 of the D.I.L.F Show. Now, in all my nervousness, in all the haphazardness, in the chaos that was episode 1, I realized I didn't even tell you what D.I.L.F stands for. Now, I want you all to get your minds out of the gutter. Probably not what you think it is, even though your brain is going to correlate things at whatever pace it does. But DILF stands for Dad I Listen to Frequently. And hopefully you got the message across in terms of why we are here. My main goal, I want to look to provide a blueprint. I want to provide a playbook and some guidelines for not only how to prepare yourself to become a better dad and a better parent, but what happens when the kiddo's actually here. Different topics, different discussions with your partner, things that are really not discussed in an open forum for dads. Oftentimes we just have to kind of figure it out, spray and pray a little bit. And, it's really not easy when you're actually a dad and you're going through it and just trying to keep your head above water. So the D.I.L.F Show, the Dad I Listen to Frequently, is really designed to be there, to be a crutch, to be an outlet, a resource for new parents out there, for existing parents, and really for anyone. I mean, I'm all ears. I learn as much as I'm trying to teach, and I'm just excited that you're tuning in for episode 2 here. So for episode 2, I'm going to answer a extremely important question, because before you actually have the kid, I think you need to address this one. Am I even ready to have children? And it's something that sounds so basic that you don't even, all of a sudden, your wife is pregnant, and then you're just kind of in the mix, and you're just like, I don't even think we answered this question. I don't think we even talked about it all that much prior to jumping into it. And there could be different factors at play. There could be your parents are, kind of expecting things of you to have children. You're getting pressure watching your friends' social media feeds fill up with pictures of babies. I know that I've seen, buddies who they've got kids playing baseball and t-ball. And I'm just like, oh man, I got to get moving here. I got to knock my wife up and just crank this kid out. But if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, that's obviously not a good starting point. And, am I ready to have kids? I think is a loaded question. And we're going to address some of those questions today. And I'm going to kind of explain to you, as your favorite DILF, the 3 insanely important questions that you need to answer before you decide whether or not you're actually ready to have kids. And I'm hoping that you get a little bit something from this before just diving right in. So, before I get to those questions, I just wanted to let you know that, this this engine, this podcast, everything is going to run based off of your interaction. It's going to based off of our feedback from and with one another, your questions, your thoughts, your stories. And I just want to let you know where you can get at me at. That was eloquent right there. But really, if you're getting value out of this, don't forget to share, tweet, send a smoke signal. You can send a good old fashioned email, pass the message along. I know something existed when I was growing up called MySpace. Not sure if you still use that. I think the comparable thing would now be TikTok. I really don't know what TikTok is. Maybe we can do an episode on what exactly TikTok is and why it's just blown up and exploded the way it has. But you can upload your TikTok video, send it. We've got our Gmail accounts. I've got it's just thedilfshow@gmail.com. Got a website, believe it or not, www.thedilfshow.com. Instagram @thedilfshow, Facebook @thedilfshow. It's all fairly streamlined and consistent with one another. So if you just type in the D.I.L.F Show, you're probably going to get it. But make sure, the more you share, the more we grow together. And I want to hear all your stories. I want to hear everything that's going on out there, what's working, what's not working. So please feel free to share that with me and just let me know what's going on. So that being said, let's dive right into the topic for today. Am I ready to have kids? So being a man and in his advanced middle age, let's just call it what it is. Men are confused. We don't really know what's going on a lot of the time. And that doesn't change. I still feel ultimately like I'm a big man child trapped in a, aggressively, mediocre man's physique. And my age keeps going up, but my mentality, I still feel like an 18 to 22-year-old at times. And by at times, I mean pretty much all the time. And men are confused. We simply just don't know what's going on a lot of the time. And when it comes to the concept and the idea of children, we see kids 5 and older, and we're just like, oh, hell yeah, I can do that. Piece of cake. And we see them playing sports. We see them, being creative. We see them laughing and running around and making jokes and making fart noises. It's just like, oh shit, this looks great. I want one of these. Maybe you take care of a niece or nephew, and you take care of them for a few hours, and you're like, damn, this is a piece of cake. Why are parents, tripping? Why are they freaked out so much? Yeah. 3 hours, the same thing, definitely is, your entire lifetime. But, we don't really understand the true responsibilities of being a dad. And I think, speaking for myself and going into, the discussion of whether or not we should have a kid, I know I cherished my wants, what I wanted to do, who I wanted to be hanging out with. What type of freedom did I want to still have? And I really think going into the process, you talk yourself into it. You're just like, oh, damn, my life's not going to change all that much. Yeah, there's going to be this little baby thing, and, we're going to have to feed it and change it and all this stuff and bathe it. But I'm still going to get to go out. I'm still going to be able to do my thing. And hopefully, in answering the 3 questions that I'm about to outline, you can get to the heart of the matter of if you're really ready to have kids, or you're just looking at the outside factors or the glitz and glam of what it could be like to have a kid. And, a lot of it definitely starts with you first, you, the individual parents, the mom or the dad. You have to figure out whether or not you are ready to have children, whether or not you're excited about it. And, why are you doing it? What are your main motivations? When Julia, my wife, and I started the discussion, it felt really easy to kind of get sucked into the idea of it by your partner. I heard her talking about it and getting so passionate about it, talking about her niece, her nephew. I started thinking about, my nephews. I thought about growing up with my cousins, Alex and Cassie, and how much fun we had together. I'm just like, oh man, rock and roll kids are going to be great. Rock and roll, man, I just keep dating myself. What a stupid phrase, whatever. And, when we were into that discussion, ultimately, my first instinct was I was extremely indifferent. And I actually believe that Julia was too. We were just like, we could go either way. We don't really know if it's a hard yes or a hard no just yet. And I think that was important because, if one of us had been a hard line, either yes or no, we probably would have rushed into something that we weren't ready for. And I can tell you from my perspective, I went back and forth daily, weekly, between this ultra excitement of just, excuse me there, of just, I say, excuse me. And I wish you could see, if I ever do post these videos, you should see how janky this setup is. I mean, it's really quite comical. I've got books on a chair. I've got the diaper genie in front of me. That's what the microphone is sitting on. I do have to do just like I gotta show you guys what it looks like. But anyways, when side tangent, I go on a lot of tangents, you'll find. But, in being indifferent and in how I felt about it, all of a sudden I'm ultra excited and I'm like, I can do this. I know I can do this. I know I have wisdom to bestow. I know that I believe that I can raise a child who can contribute, who is awesome, who is wonderful and happy and positive and all these good things. Then, maybe you go out for, dinner and some drinks with some friends on a Friday or Saturday night, and you're like, hell no. You wake up the next day, maybe a little hungover. You're like, I'm not doing this. I am not capable of giving up that freedom to just be able to do what I want when I want. And that excitement quickly turns into this morbid, eternal dread of, man, we're locked into this thing. There's no turning back once the kid gets here. We can't just go grab drinks. We can't just go walk to the mailbox without there having to be this additional plan. And you really, really need to open up this discussion with your partner, whether you're going to, have your own child, or you're going to adopt, or, whatever process you're starting. Open lines of communication. I cannot tell you how pivotal and important that is in really all facets of your relationship and any other relationship you have. Just be open and honest, but don't qualify or filter anything. Just throw thoughts out there without worrying what the response is going to be. Just say, look, I was thinking about this and this is freaking me out, or this got me really, really excited. I'm really pumped up and I want to share this with you. But just put it out there, put it all out there, make sure that you're talking. And ultimately what it came down to is I love Julia so much. And we believed together that whatever we would create as a child would be something far more important and meaningful than us individually, us together, and it would be this thing that was 100% ours. And we didn't understand our capacity for love until, Arlo actually got here. But, we ultimately decided that we want to create this thing because we feel we're so awesome together. This thing has to be double awesome. And if every sign points to, when you have a child, everyone talks the same. They're just ultimately so excited and they live for that kid. There's got to be something to it. Plus, we started thinking about, when we're down the road and aging in advanced years and we're retired and, we've got this potential, hopefully, empire to leave behind. And it's like, who are we going to share it with? Who's going to enjoy this? Because our friends right now, they're still going to be our friends down the road. Our family's still going to be our family. But hate to say it, if this is dark, whatever, people die. Friends drift apart. Things aren't the same. Friends have their own families. And you're not just going to be able to go out grabbing drinks and doing your thing forever. And I think that is, it kind of boils down to this idea of legacy. And you'll hear me talk a lot about legacy on this show, because ultimately I'm trying to leave behind a legacy for Arlo, for my son, for anyone who's potentially listening, and trying to grow from this information. But, when we're old, decrepit, feeble beings, who's going to take care of us? Who is going to enjoy the rewards of our efforts in our lifetime? I think that in many ways, we all crave this idea that we're looked up to, that we are leaving our stamp and leaving our legacy on the world in some way, shape, or form. And, when we're retired and it's just the two of us, is that going to feel fulfilling? Is that going to feel empty? Is that going to feel good? Is that going to feel bad? Well, we started ironing those questions out, and we really decided, we're like, we want to share this with someone who is twice as awesome as we are, and someone who we've had the opportunity to learn with and, teach and watch grow. And ultimately, that's when we decided, what, let's throw those condoms away. Let's pull the plug on the birth control. Let's do this thing because we love each other. And this person that we want to create together is someone that we are excited to see become far more awesome than we possibly ever could be. And so opening that dialogue was pivotal. And now I want to pose these three questions and a couple more, but I think that these three questions are super important for you in terms of just a starting point. your life, your situation are going to be far different from mine. I'm speaking from limited experience. I'm speaking from, my familial situation and going back, thinking about my mom, thinking about my dad. I mean, I've really been afforded so many wonderful opportunities just because of the people that they were and still are, and the way that they took care of me, right? So your situation is not going to fall into, one cookie cutter box of whether or not you're ready to have kids. But I think that these 3 questions are really important because I know I started asking myself these questions, and I wanted to know more about myself, because if I'm on board with it, then I can get on board with, the team being on board with it, with myself and Julia being on board, but if you're not taking care of yourself, then how are you going to be able to take care of another individual, right? So first question, am I happy? In this moment, in this state and time, am I happy, right? I think a lot of times, you get into different situations where people are not happy in their relationship. They're not happy with work. They're not happy with different external factors, their friend circles, their family circles, whatever it might be. There's just this tint and this shade of unhappiness that just kind of is this dark cloud. And, a child can potentially be something that could save that in your opinion, or, in your justification. And I really thought, if I'm not happy, if I am currently in a state of unhappiness, is that going to be the best environment for this child to be born into? And I really think that if you use a kid, having a kid as a springboard to save something, to save a relationship, to save your own personal happiness, or address your own personal shortcomings, you're starting off on the wrong foot. You're doing it for the wrong reason, right? I think it's going to make things worse. Obviously we have good days and bad days, but overall, are you happy? Is life enjoyable right now? And with having that kid around, we'll talk about the first year, we'll talk about the first month, we'll talk about it a lot of times, but will having that kid around on the aggregate make things better? Will it take your happiness to the next level? So many times and in so many different situations, you feel like you need something new and something fresh, something exciting to pull you out or away from something. And, a promotion at work or quitting your job, something along those lines. It could be that thing that you need. What else do people do? You get tattoos. You go on a bender for the weekend. You travel. You do something that is outside of your normal routine, just to feel like, hey, I need a reset. I need a quick burst of, feeling better, right? But I think that what people don't realize about children is that it's not just a weekend. It is a forever investment. And so you addressing your internal happiness, I think, is 100% crucial towards answering, the ultimate question, am I ready to have a kid right now? Question number 2, am I stable? And take stability in any direction that you want, in every direction that you can. Financially, physically, mentally, employment, whatever it might be. Am I stable right now? And I think that, your sense of happiness kind of plays into this, and, how you're going about your routine and what you have developed in your life. But, if you're moving all over the place and you can't seem to find solid ground. And I use that as a metaphor because, in my industry, I do a ton of loans for, veterans, and they're always moving from place to place, active military, from place to place. That doesn't mean that they're not stable. That's part of the job. That's part of what they're expected to do within their realm of understanding of their employment and of their responsibilities. So don't take it as, just kind of moving all over the place, but am I a stable person right now? Can I count on where my next paycheck is coming from? Will I be able to provide for another person in my life? Or do I not want to do that? Do I not want to sacrifice 4 vacations a year? Do I not want to lose out on investing in my own and my significant other's future? Do I not want to miss out on this creative entrepreneurial idea that I have? And do I feel that now is the time to get that done before locking myself down to the eternal investment, right? I can't tell you, how many times I've talked myself out of doing something. I don't know if I'd necessarily call it a regret. I think I need to think of a different word for not taking action, for being inactive on something and looking back on it and just being like, damn, like that could have worked. That could have been something. I remember I actually told my dad once. I was living in San Diego with my best friend, Matt, and him and I were spitballing. We'd probably had a few cocktails or something like that. And we came up with this idea in the late, like 2007, 2008 time about driving someone to the bars and, driving them in your own car and having it be kind of like a faux taxi service. I even thought about it to the next level where you maybe even drive them in their own car so that they know that their car is safe. And then, you drive their car back. I know there's a, shit ton of liability and whatnot, but what in essence it boiled down to was what Uber and Lyft have become, right? And I remember I was talking about this with my dad, and my dad was just like, he's hearing the idea. He's just like, I don't know. I don't know if that's got the legs. I don't know if that's the idea. And do not get me wrong. I'm not saying that I could have gone out there and created, Uber or Lyft or anything like that. But if you have this itch for an idea and you feel that now is the time, get it done. Start it. Start doing something. Take action that day. And when it comes to this idea of what's to be expected of you, of what you want to do later, you can figure that out. But one of my industry mentors says you can't fix what doesn't exist. And oftentimes we get so in our heads about what we can and can't do and what we should and shouldn't do and what could go wrong if we did do, that we just end up not taking action on something. And, this kind of in bringing it back, reeling myself back a little bit, if you want to do something now prior to having children, go do it. If you want to go to, Barcelona and, is Barcelona? No, Pamplona. Pamplona is where you run with the bulls. If you want to go run with the bulls, go do it. If you want to go take the Instagram photo in Santorini on those like infinity pools, go do it. If you want to start a business, if you want to start a taco business, a taco truck, and you've got this great idea for a salsa, go do it. Go try it, right? Do it now while it's just the one of you or it's just the two of you. But don't look back and make these excuses after you've had your kid and say, oh man, I wish I could have done that. If that itch exists while you currently don't have children, go fucking do something about it. I can't say that any more clearly, because so oftentimes it goes the exact opposite way. And you have one kid, maybe you have 2 kids, maybe you have 3 kids, and all of a sudden you're looking back and feeling like life passed you by, when in reality, you just didn't communicate what you really wanted and you never took action. Okay. So when I talk about answering the question, am I stable? Look at yourself and look at what you hope for yourself as well, in terms of your best version, in terms of any ideas that you might have, or, taking on a new responsibility or a new job or whatever it might be, right? Go do it. But when it comes to, am I ready to have kids? If there's all these different things that are popping up and you keep saying, no, 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 are you really ready? I don't know. Final question number 3. This is a biggie because I still feel this today. Am I scared? I will tell you outright, your answer should be yes. You're 100%, your answer should be yes. I am terrified of this because it's really scary. If you've ever had a puppy and you have taken care of that little puppy and you've seen it grow up, and you remember the times when, you had to take it out every hour or two, when you had to train it and feed it and all this stuff. And you're just like, well, I can handle that. I can handle kids. It's like, It's in a stratosphere that is not even close to that. But it that kind of does prepare you for what it's like to have children in terms of the responsibility, in terms of the routine, a little bit of the expectations. But, am I scared about this? Yes, you should be. Everyone is terrified when they find out that they're pregnant. I can tell you without any, well, I hesitate saying without any hesitation. Honestly, I of course had my reservations, and my life's purpose was not to be a dad. I don't know exactly what my life's purpose is, but I can tell you I was not put on this earth just to, help and aid in the process of bearing children. That's not my main thing. It might be yours. More power to you. Then you're ready. Maybe you're not scared. I don't know. But I think that fear is supremely healthy. And it opens up the conversation that we've just been talking about to have with your significant other, right? And, talking about your fears, talking about not only what excites you, but what petrifies you. I think that vulnerability is really, really missing in today's interpersonal relationships. And in many ways, with a lot of, relationships with someone's significant other, you kind of want to be a Superman all the time. So you don't want to show that vulnerability. And answering this question for yourself, am I scared? And really diving into what is scaring you about having kids. Man, that's the secret sauce right there. It feels like, what are you really, really scared about? And one of the biggest things that I was scared about is I'm scared of the life that I'm leaving behind. I don't want to lose my old life. I don't want to lose my old friends. I don't want to lose that freedom. I don't want to lose the ability to kind of know I can do whatever I want at the drop of a hat. But how many of us actually do things at the drop of a hat? I research 15 hotels before I actually book one, right? You want to plan but you still kind of want this freedom. It's this very, very interesting interplay. And, if you're worried about losing your old life, I'm going to put your mind at ease. Your life is going to be 180 degrees different at first. It's going to be this whirlwind of confusion and learning and chaos and exhaustion. And there's going to be so many different things happening every 10 minutes, every minute. You're going to feel like an amazing parent and that you're the best parent in the world. And you're going to feel like you don't know anything, that your kid hates you, that your spouse hates you. It's kind of wonderful, and it kind of sucks, right? And but I can tell you that your old life is just going to be built upon having the child, right? Kid becomes everything. And you don't have to sacrifice your old life to the extent that you don't want to, if that kind of makes sense. And what I mean by that is, if you want to stay in contact with people, stay in contact with people. But you're going to be making sacrifices in service of that. You might be sending text messages at 3 a.m. as opposed to at 8 p.m. at night. But if you're willing to make those sacrifices, you can maintain any contacts that you want. Your work schedule, your gym schedule, your eating schedule, everything just kind of gets tweaked. Everything is ad-libbed. It's on the fly. It's like, when Peyton Manning used to come up to the line and adjust every single play. That's what kind of parenting is like. You have a play in mind. You've got something set. You're just like, all right, this is what we're going to do. You walk up there, you see it's a shit show. It's like, nope, we're doing this. You're doing this. You got to do this, right? Just like Peyton used to be the general out there. And, I do believe that there is an ultimate middle ground in terms of the life that you had and the life that you now have moving forward. And, we'll talk a little bit about, are you enjoying your free time too much when the child is here? I think on the whole, dads aren't doing enough during that first year. Arlo is now 14, 15, going on 15 months. I think that there's ways to do more. And I'd love to share with you kind of what I've learned in terms of how to be present and active during that first year. And we're going to get to that. But ultimately, look within yourself. Am I scared? And what am I really afraid about here? Right. And, looking at that under the microscope, those three questions: am I happy? Am I stable? Am I scared? If you get a hold of those and you're talking about that with your significant other, you're at least going to put your mind at ease a little bit more to be prepared to make the decision. And, sometimes shit happens. Sometimes life happens. We have unprotected sex, and, all of a sudden we're in this situation that we don't know how to handle, but that, things shouldn't dictate your ability to handle them in the moment. You can always take a quick step and a quick breath and say, you know what, we need to address these things within our life, and we need to make sure that we're prepared for this. But if you're able to do it on your own terms, you're able to do it the right way, you're able to physically conceive. I know that that's not always the case for people, and Julia and I were insanely fortunate in that regard. You want to answer these questions before you start trying. Just put in the effort before you start trying, and you're in over your head, right? Look at what you feel the largest sacrifices you're making. Why do you want to physically have a child? What's your relationship like with your family currently? Any nieces or nephews? How is everything going on that front? And is it good, bad? Like, is it just going to cause more angst if you have a child of your own? Like, I can't answer these questions for you. But I do kind of want to provide, these to kind of cap things off. And I think that you really should have kids, if you feel like you've done your living, you feel like you've paid your dues, you've had your last hangover, so to speak. Even though, don't get me wrong, I've had plenty of hangovers since Arlo's been born. But, do you feel you've done all the things that you've really wanted to do, enjoyment wise, travel wise? And, I know that may kind of contradict what I was speaking about earlier in terms of going and doing stuff. But it's not like a death sentence by any stretch of the imagination. We're still traveling a ton. We're still traveling. We're still doing things that are fun. It's just not in the same capacity, right? So, do you feel like you've gone out and lived enough? You might be ready to have a kid. Okay. Between yourself or the two of you, or however you're assembled in terms of today's day and age, do you feel like you have at least one full-time job, one full-time income? Here's another one. This one's kind of off the mark. Well, not off the mark, but this one's kind of a fun one. Do you feel like you don't have to go out and, drink with friends every Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, potentially Sunday morning? Is that still part of your routine where you're just going out weeknights and weekends all the time? If you're still doing that and that's still part of it, then, I would suggest really just kind of reconsidering, because it's going to be a harsh wake-up call if you're trying to live like that and you have a kid. In terms of maybe not considering to move forward with kids right now, what is your relationship like with your significant other? Is the love still there? Is the enjoyment there? Is the communication open? Like I said earlier, don't do it to save anything within your relationship with your significant other. So many times I can look back on situations that people withheld the truth from me, and it's just like, oh, I wanted to tell you. Like, how many times are you just like, dude, you should have just freaking told me, right? If you're unhappy about something in your relationship, just speak up. You're not doing anyone any service, and you're just digging the hole deeper. Okay. What's your patience level like right now? And I say that and I laugh and I smile because, I feel like there is something you develop known that I'm just going to kind of coin called the dad patience or the parent patience, whatever you think. Parent patience rolls a little bit nicer with the alliteration. But, if you're just this extremely impatient person all the time, someone cuts you off and you honk and yell, you're pissed off at someone who's taking too long to order their coffee. If you have this resting level of impatience, that's not going to get better when you have children. I can tell you that much. Having children is easily one of the most frustrating things I've ever experienced in my entire life. And I've experienced some pretty frustrating moments. But, you know, when it comes to having and developing that patience, yes, you can develop it along the way. But are you just generally an impatient person? And is that something you can work on prior to making the decision to have kids? You know, taking classes, doing yoga, doing, meditating, going out there and, doing one of those things. I see now that there's, there's these houses full of like glass and breakables, and you could go and pay for every 15 minutes and just destroy it with bats and golf clubs and hammers, and go get that rage monster out. Do what you got to do. But if you're an impatient person by nature, you got to find a way to focus your patience towards that relationship that's about to happen. Because, I can feel angst building up inside of me. And something that I just mentioned to my team today is like, you're not your thoughts, you're your actions. And I've learned to control that, but that doesn't mean that impatience still doesn't exist, that frustration isn't there, right? I'm just handling it the best way that I know how, but I know for a fact that if I was 25 years old and trying to figure this shit out right now, I wouldn't be able to do it. Me personally, I would have I don't know if I would have gone off the rails. I don't know what I would have done, but I would have been in way over my head, and I would not have been able to figure out how to be a competent and loving and nurturing parent as quickly as I believe that I have. And so, in a later episode, we're going to talk about, why I believe you shouldn't have kids before you're 30 at all. We'll get into that. And I'm sure there's going to be, that's a hot button topic for some people, but I was nowhere equipped to handle this responsibility. So look at those facets in your own life and really try to diagnose, am I really ready to have kids? Because, if you're not, you don't have to just move forward and have a kid. I know you can feel that kind of anxiety and pressure building up as the days, the weeks, the months, the years go on. And I know for women, it's very different. 35 starts to creep up on you. And that's kind of the threshold of when you have kids. After 35, it's just based off of, science and statistics that says, that child is more likely now to have certain issues when they're born. I mean, it's just a fact. And so, yes, there are internal clocks that are at play, but focus inward on yourself first and foremost, as best as you can. Then bring this up with your significant other. Don't qualify or filter anything. Throw it all out on the table. Can we do this? Are we ready? Do we still want to travel? Where should we go? And if you can confidently check enough boxes off where you're just like, you know what? I love you so damn much. I'm ready to do this. I think you're going to be in a better place because you talked about it and because you got your fears out there and you figured things out within yourself in order to make a decision for not only the person who's in front of you, but the life that is coming into this world. That was pretty good. That was a pretty good way to put it. I like that one. So yeah, obviously this is really just scratching the surface. What questions did I miss? What do you think you should be asking yourself or asking your significant other in terms of, are we ready to do this? Am I ready to have kids? What did I miss? Shoot me an email, thedilfshow@gmail.com. Hit me up on social media at the DILF Show, wherever social media exists, right? Shoot me a Snapchat with a funny filter. Ask me that question. I think my Snapchat is like AC8455 or something like that, right? Figure it out. Get me your questions. What questions did I miss? What did you agree with? What did you disagree with? And let me know what's resonating with you here, because at the end of the day, this is a loaded question. And I simply feel that not enough people address anything before just jumping into having children. And they just kind of, ready, fire, aim. And then all of a sudden they're way too involved and invested 6 months into being pregnant. And there's this panic, this fear that sets in. And even after the kid's born, that fear has never really gone away. And it just creates this angst, this anxiety that keeps building up about the life that passed you by. And just so often you see it that these people having children are not like ready or prepared to have that child. And I don't want you to be one of those people. So let's talk about it. Let's hash it out. What other questions are there? thedilfshow@gmail.com. Let me know. And that's really all I got for you today. That was an interesting, well, you're the one who's going to determine if it was interesting, but in coming episodes, we're going to dive more into, topics such as this, kind of the preparation aspect, but then we're going to dive into, holy shit, the kid's here. And that's going to be a fun ride. So make sure you tune in for episode 3, and just hit me up on my socials wherever you can. I don't know where you are right now. I don't know what you're doing, but just know that I love you and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Thank you so much. I think I just stopped my video without stopping the recording. Okay, I'm out of here. I love you.